What's up guys, and welcome back. Today on Trent's Garage we've got a big surprise, or hopefully we hope it's a big surprise. I finally tracked down the studs and the cone washers and the nuts that go on the factory side of the Ultimate Dana 60 on the passenger side. I'm hoping that those are the correct threads. It's very difficult to find information about them, and I know a lot of you guys have mentioned like, hey, just go to a local machine shop, have them make you the studs that are actually gonna fit in the holes that you have. And if this doesn't work, that's my next objective, is to go to a machine shop and have them make studs, because this has been an absolute nightmare to try and track these things down. And we're gonna open up this box and we're gonna figure out whether it's correct or not. Box inside a box inside a box. One, those cone washers look massive compared to the other ones. These studs look like they're probably about the right size and probably the right thread pitch. One thing that made me really upset is that Dana Spicer, who makes the Ultimate Dana 60 axle, they don't sell these studs anywhere. They don't sell these nuts and these cone washers anywhere. The only place that you can get these nuts and studs and cone washers is in a package with the steering arm. This whole thing comes as a package. You get it as an actual Dana Spicer part, has a part number. But like if you shear one of those studs, you have to buy this whole kit. That's highway robbery, Dana, and I'm not cool with that. But it's the only way that I could get all of these parts without spending half a day going to a machine shop and having them make all of these things. And let's just say if these cone washers don't fit in the steering arm that I got from the guy who made this kit, hopefully he can make me an arm that fits these cone washers. The moment everyone has been waiting for I think it's probably been like a month or 5 weeks or 6 weeks, or it's been a long time. We're gonna go check and see if one of these fits in our knuckle. Remove these enormous tires for the 15th time. Like, these tires look big when they're on their side, but you don't really realize like how big they are until you like stand them up and you're like, oh, they're about a belly button high. They are very, very large tires. Can't wait until we can like mount these on the axles and get the axles on the truck. We'll have so much space in here without 5 giant tires, and we haven't even got the rear axle out of the crate. Still got to cut all the brackets off of it and do all that stuff, but anyway, I'm just stalling because I am nervous about these studs fitting in the knuckle or not fitting in the knuckle. Please, 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 please. No! It's the right size, and I think it's the wrong thread pitch. Could this go any worse? All right. So the guy that told me what tap to buy, he said it was a 5/8 by 18, or 18 threads per inch. And it looks like these studs are 5/8 by 11 threads per inch, or 5/8-11. That's really, really upsetting. I mean, the good news is that, you know, these cone washers will work, but the nuts wouldn't work. So like, now I'm probably just gonna have to go to a machine shop and try to have them make everything. I was really hoping that those studs were gonna thread into the knuckles and it was gonna solve all of my problems and we'd be able to finish setting up all of the steering. That is just not the case today. So to keep making progress today, we're gonna shift that aside and not worry about that. But I did get these motor mounts finished that you guys probably saw in the last episode, and we can at least get these bolted onto the engine and start kind of maybe thinking about how we're gonna mock up our motor mounts. All right guys, I've been working in the garage all day and I'm taking a little bit of a break to come in here and get some dinner, but Allie is not making dinner tonight. Dinner is on me, and dinner is actually sponsored by Factor. The best thing about Factor is that Factor is not like a meal prep program where they send you ingredients or they send you frozen stuff. This is fresh, never frozen meals that are chef prepared, dietitian approved, And did I say fresh, never frozen? It's like actual food that they make. There's no artificial ingredients, no preservatives. It's all natural, it's all healthy, and it's like low sugar, low carb, low fat, high in protein, got a lot of fiber. It's just really good food. Very hot. This is Factor's white cheddar chicken, and it comes with green beans, and the green beans have like garlic and spices and like all different types of seasoning. I would never even make a meal this good for myself. This is absolutely amazing. If you're looking for an easy way to eat really healthy and eat really good food, Factor is definitely the way to go. My favorite thing about Factor is that it's like a really on-the-go lunch or dinner idea. You just pull it out of the fridge, it takes 2 minutes to heat it up, and it's ready to go. It's delicious, it's well-balanced. What more could you ask for? Honestly, I can't wait to dig in and eat the rest of this. This is absolutely amazing, and if you guys are interested in trying out Factor, I highly recommend doing so. You can actually get 50% off your first box of Factor by using code GARAGE50. But you gotta click the link in my description and go to their website to do so. I wanted to say thanks again to Factor for sponsoring today's video. Now I'm gonna dig in and we're gonna head back out to the garage and get to work. So now since I had that washer in there, now my bushing will slide in and out of there nice and easily for when we're actually trying to mock up the motor mounts. Now that I've got those free, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the bolts that go on the engine, and maybe we should paint these first. I'm gonna try to remember later to paint these. I would paint them right now, but then I'd have to wait for them to dry before I could actually start, fabbing up our motor mounts. So I'm not gonna do that right now, but hopefully I'll remember to do it later. So let's go get these mounted on the engine and start taking some measurements and maybe cutting some tube to make our motor mounts. So I've got a couple different ideas on how I'm gonna make these motor mounts. And what I think is gonna work out best is I'm gonna have the motor mount here, and it's gonna have an adjacent tube that comes directly off to this frame rail right here, and then the same thing on the other side. And then I think I'm gonna do like a cross member piece that comes and attaches to both motor mounts so that it's all kind of rigid, one piece that's tied together. And then I can tie that into a different spot to kind of make it a little bit more rigid up here. Then we don't have to worry about, the motor ripping off one of the motor mounts or something like that. This motor mount is a lot more precarious than the other side because of the starter right here. We have some more unfortunate news, and that's I've got the motor mounts on there, and they're pretty much ready to throw those bushings and the tubes on there, throw a bolt in it, and then kind of get ready to figure out where our tubing is going to go and how long it needs to be to attach the motor mounts to our frame rails to get the motor mounted inside the chassis. The issue is that the transfer case is clocked at, I'm not exactly sure what angle it's at, but I need to clock it a little bit more in order to get the drivetrain to go up, kind of more up inside the body. And in order to do that, I have to take the transfer case back off, which we already knew was going to be an issue. We already knew we were going to have to do that. But now that I've got the engine in place where it's at, to do that would be actually, you know what, we can do this the easy way. Raise the truck up and turn the drivetrain around, and we can take the transfer case off and clock it. I was literally about to get on my back and pull the transfer case out underneath the truck just to clock it, but it's not attached to anything. So there's literally no purpose in doing that. I'm just gonna raise the truck up, we're gonna flip the drivetrain around, and that transfer case is coming off at least one more time. sucks that you have to do all of this legwork of like taking the transfer case off, taking all these bolts out just to like rotate this, you know, an inch or something, put the bolts back in, put it back on the transmission, rotate it in there, lower the body down, get the transmission, transfer case, and engine all in place just to see like whether it's gonna work or not, because it might not even work, you know, when we clock it more or less. It's a lot of like trial and error and repeating the same process until you get it perfect. And that type of stuff is the type of stuff that most people cut corners on, because like I would be tempted right now to be like, yep, we'll rotate this 1 more degree. Let's just Loctite the bolts and throw them in there, slap it on, and we'll make it work, right? Because you don't want to spend all this time going back and forth trying to get it perfect. But that's the difference between a build that works really well and a build that just works, is like spending that extra time to try and make things perfect, or as close to perfect as you can get them. And to be honest, I'm usually the guy that's like, it'll work. So I'm trying really hard on this build to make sure I'm not the guy that says it'll work and that I say, no, I need to take it off, I need to redo it, I need to change this, I need to change that. So, sucks to be that guy. I think we're on the actual transfer case, so I think the transfer case might have to come down just a little bit. But the way it's looking right now, it's looking pretty good. So those heater hoses look like they are in the factory location and they're plugged into the heater core. So I think the engine is in relation to the body about where it's normally supposed to sit. Now, I just need to kind of check some more clearances with the transmission and the transfer case. Maybe it needs to come down a little bit because I think it's really tight in the transmission tunnel. It's really hard to do this, and also it's like on a jack balancing and being held by the engine hoist, so I don't really want to like climb under it and like look around because it could fall on me, so I'm trying to be very careful about this. I think I've come to the conclusion that maybe we need to clock it even a little bit more than it's already clocked right now. The problem is I probably need to call Advanced Adapters and say, hey, with this case, if I clock it too much, what's the downside? How much oil will I be able to get in? Will the case still circulate oil without any issues if I clock it too much? Like, what am I dealing with here? So I think I'm gonna try and call Advanced Adapters really quick before they close, see if they have any input for me, but in the meantime, I'm gonna lift the body up, rotate the transmission out, and pull it back off 1 more time, because even if we do or don't clock it, we gotta do that to Loctite the bolts. So, yeah, here we go. Well, first I skinned this knuckle, and this glove is probably full of blood because I literally skinned it. I just took the top of the knuckle off, just trying to tighten or loosen one of these with the Allen wrench. That adapter has a very sharp corner on it. And then right after I like cleaned it up and put a new glove on, I did the exact same thing with the opposite hand. So needless to say, I'm bleeding all over the place. That's neither here nor there. I am going to keep moving on here. I called Advanced Adapters and they said, you can rotate that thing all the way to the max angle, which is 46 degrees. The case doesn't care. It will run no matter what. There's not going to be any issues with oil pickups or anything like that. So I've actually rotated it to the maximum degrees, which is 46 degrees. We're going to test fit it at 46 degrees and see how it looks and see if maybe that's going to work for us. Maybe it's too much. Maybe we'll have to go back, you know, 1 setting, but we're going to try it at 46 degrees and see what happens. All right, I'm trying to live up to the expectation that I set for myself of test fitting things 10 times to make sure that it's perfect and correct. And we did set the transfer case up at the 46 degree angle, which is the max drop that it can have. And just looking at it, I was like, we can't do that. That's wrong. That's bad. It was like almost straight up and down. It's like so steep. So the instructions that talk about this transmission and transfer case combo said that they retained the factory angle, which was 40 degrees. So I'm guessing the second to last setting is 40 degrees and the next setting is 46 degrees. So we're gonna go with the hole's previous the second to steepest angle that they have, and then we're gonna slide it up in there and see how she fits. I just don't have enough experience doing what I'm doing. We rotated the case to 40 degrees. It will work perfectly fine in this orientation, but I don't know if it's like more worth it to rotate the case at a lesser angle and then lower the entire drivetrain assembly so that the truck has a lower center of gravity, or if it's better to have the drivetrain tucked up inside with the case at a steeper angle, because the case is gonna stick out of the bottom of the like skid plate or the belly pan no matter what. And so if it's gonna stick out no matter what, I should probably lower the engine and the transmission and everything so that it has a lower center of gravity. I'm just like trying to figure out what's the best method and like what's gonna be the most efficient or make the most sense. Problem is if I clock it less, I gotta take it out and redo it probably at least 2 more times. Huh, Frank? Yeah, good. I don't want to do that. All right, so I went ahead and took my pieces of tube. I put the 2 bushings in there and then the metal sleeve that I built my motor mounts around inside of there. These are my 2 engine mounts that are gonna be inside the motor mounts, and then I'm gonna weld tubing onto this, and that tubing is going to attach to the frame. So we need to get these put in place and get some bolts and nuts through the motor mounts so that we know exactly where this is gonna be. Then we can start measuring and cutting some tubing and notching it so that it can weld from here to the frame rail. The thing that'll be pretty easy about this is that both of these legs that go to the motor from the frame rails right here are just gonna be straight. So I'm not gonna have to have like crazy bends in them or make them all super wild. They're just gonna be notched on both sides and straight pieces of tubing. So hopefully this will be easy and I'm not gonna eat my words later. The issue is we're doing something custom. We're putting this custom transfer case into a custom frame on a Toyota Tacoma body, and we're trying to mesh everything together, and like nothing goes together like it's from the factory because none of it is. So trying to figure out where you can kind of give and take your tolerances and alignment and stuff like that. I think we've got it set up to where I can mount the motor now. I can cut these 2 pieces of tube that are going to be proper lengths. I can get them notched, and then we can tack them onto our motor mounts and see what it looks like. These are coped or notched, so they're gonna slide onto the frame rails. And now I need to go double check. I'm pretty sure those tubes are 2 inch, so I'll need to change my hole saw. And then we'll do the other sides. Oh, lady, let your body take control. All right, here's our piece. Let's go see if it fits. All right, so that fits in there all but flawlessly. And I'm actually really happy with how that is lining up in there. It looks incredible. The thing I'm concerned about is I got that in there because I was able to push the motor to the side to slide that piece in there. So when I do this piece, I don't know how, if that piece is in there, am I gonna be able to push the motor around to get this piece to fit in there perfectly as well? It's not cool. Might have to take the bolt out, tap the thing out, and then tap it back in. And maybe that'll work. Might have motor mounts pretty soon. Used the bench grinder, got the all the burrs taken off, all the edges cleaned up. Now there's no mill scale over here where I need to weld. This is a nerve-wracking part. I'm like really excited to be to this point, but I'm also really nervous about tack welding these on. Even if it's just tack welding, I can just take them off if I needed to. It's like, it's just a scary thing. So I think I'm gonna grab my tubing sander out of the toolbox and try and clean up the tubes where I'm gonna weld these on, and then we'll get to tacking. Now is for the most nerve-wracking part of all. I think that we have the engine, transmission, and transfer case in the proper location. I think everything is gonna be well functioning in its position that it's currently in right now. I'm gonna tack these supports on. It's not the end of the world if they end up not being good. I can, cut them off and grind the tacks off and we can start over again, but it's just a little nerve-wracking and feels very permanent. So I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get it done. I've got the supports tacked on that are going to attach the motor mounts to the frame. It's just very permanent. It's like, maybe I should fully weld these on. Maybe I should not fully weld anything until everything is built. Like, I just don't really know if it's gonna be like that was a fly, I just killed it. I just don't really know if like fully welding these on is gonna be a mistake, or if it's like something that I need to do so that I can put the chassis and motor together and like have the chassis hold the engine. I don't really know, so taking a gamble here. Now I've removed the bolts that hold the motor mount to the engine, and I've removed the bolt that's holding the motor mount with our support here, and I've got them separated. Now I just need to knock these two bushings out, and then I actually need to do the exact same process on the driver's side, and then we can probably pull the engine forward, maybe lower it down a little bit, raise the chassis up so that I can get to these to fully weld both sides of them.
Too shabby, Trent.
Now we really have to wait for those to fully cool before I can put those like urethane bushings back in them. So I can't actually get the motor mounted up today. Would like to have, but it's getting pretty late in the day. We're gonna have to let Brandon go, and I am exhausted. It's been a long day, so I think this is where I'm gonna call it. We did get our supports for the motor mounts and everything fully welded. Like, as soon as this all cools down, we could assemble it and hang the engine on here. It's probably gonna be off balance, and it's gonna try and pull the cab off of the lift, so I might not be able to actually like rely on the frame to hold the engine, but we could. Like, that's a huge plus and a huge victory for today. So if you guys enjoyed coming along on today's adventure, make sure you guys show me by giving a big thumbs up on today's video. Consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys on the next one.